In my last lesson, I said that we'd be talking about how to present your ideas to management, but jumping into that too soon could actually backfire. If you go to leadership now with nothing but your frustrations and vague intentions, then it's likely to come across as a complaint. And that's not what we're aiming for. You're not here to moan about the state of UX in your organization. You're here to show leadership and to demonstrate a vision and to earn their trust. And that's why before we have conversations with our stakeholders, we need to take a step back and put together a draft UX strategy. Now, I'm calling it a draft for a reason. This isn't a final plan. You don't need to have every detail nailed down yet, and in fact, you probably shouldn't. You will be far more successful if you involve others in shaping the strategy with you. If you present something back that's 100% locked in, people are more likely to push back. Not because your plan is wrong, but because they feel excluded from it. On the other hand, a draft invites collaboration. It shows initiative without being presumptuous. It says, here's what I'm thinking, but I'd love your help in refining it. And that's the mindset that we want to take into our early conversations with management. Now, over the last few lessons, we've been quietly building towards this. You've audited your current role, taken stock of your resources, and thought through where you can already have some influence. You're probably also starting to identify your organizational goals that UX could actually support. Now it's time to bring all of that together. A strategy isn't just a roadmap. It's not a shopping list of new tools or wish lists for more staff. It's definitely not about a list of complaints. A good UX strategy has three things. It explains why change is needed by highlighting real challenges and opportunities. It defines principles and priorities that will guide UX efforts across the organization. And it defines practical tactics for making progress with the resources you've already got. That's what we're going to build. So let's begin with a few common pitfalls. These are things I see in struggling strategy documents again and again. First of all, don't include project plans or timelines. The goal here isn't to create a map of every task for the next year. That approach makes your strategy rigid and quickly becomes outdated. Instead, you want a strategy that can flex and shift with priorities, one that defines how UX operates, not just what it delivers. Secondly, don't lead your requests with more resources. At this stage, avoid asking for extra tools and staff or budget. Most managers spend their life fielding these kinds of requests. You want to stand out by showing what you can do with what's already available. That makes it much easier to have a resource conversation later when you've proven your value and built credibility. It's tempting to also include statements like improve usability or reduce friction. But on their own, these kinds of things are too vague. A strategy needs to explain not just what you want to achieve, but how you plan to get there and why it matters to the business. So let's walk through the key elements your draft strategy should include. Think of these as your building blocks. You don't need them all to be perfect, just sketched out enough to invite discussion. Start by making your case for change. What's broken in the current user experience? Where are users struggling and where is the organization missing out? Framing these points through a business lens. If users' frustrations are leading to increased support calls, that's not just a UX problem, it's a cost issue. If your site's onboarding process is clunky, that's not just bad design, it's hurting conversion and revenue. Be careful to strike the right tone here. You're not trying to point fingers, you're highlighting real pain points or untapped potential so you can help the organization move forward. Which you emphasize, challenges or opportunities, depends on your context. In large, more well-established organizations, it's often more effective to talk about risks of not changing. In smaller, more growth-focused environments, you might want to lean more heavily into what you could gain by investing in UX. Then we need to look at also adding some guiding principles and policies. This part of your strategy sets the tone for how UX should operate across your organization. It gives leadership a sense of your approach, not just your activities. Start with a few core principles. These could be things like we design with evidence, not assumptions. We aim to empower teams across the organization to think about UX. We prioritize inclusivity and accessibility from the start. Then sketch out any policies or playbook elements that would help to make those principles real. For example, maybe you want every new feature to go through at least one round of usability testing. Or maybe you propose a standard onboarding workshop for new teams to learn about UX. For each principle and policy, clearly outline the benefits it will bring to the various teams and to the organization as a whole. Will they speed up development, reduce support tickets, improve customer satisfaction? The more concrete these benefits are, the less like bureaucracy they're going to feel. Keep everything as lightweight as possible. The smaller the ask, the more likely people are to embrace it. And always emphasize that you're here to support the teams through any changes. You're not just adding requirements and walking away. These policies aren't rules to be enforced from day one. They're flags in the ground. They show where you want to go. Finally, identify some practical steps you can start making without waiting for a bigger team or more budget. Don't worry, we'll explore all of these tactics in much more detail as the course continues, but here's a few examples. Create internal resources. Things like UX checklists, user journey templates, or research guides. Offer lightweight support services, quick audits, design reviews, or discovery workshops. Run training sessions, lunch and learn, onboarding sessions, or short videos that introduce you to various aspects of UX thinking. And start culture building efforts. Start sharing success stories, publishing small wins, and highlighting user quotes. These kinds of tactics show that you're ready to help others succeed. They also create visibility and credibility for UX without over-promising what your team can deliver. We'll dive more deeply into the implementation of all of these approaches in upcoming lessons. The point of this strategy is not to have all the answers, it is to create a clear foundation for better conversations. When you take this draft to management, you're not saying, here's what I need you to approve. You're saying, here's what I'm thinking. Does this direction make sense to you? That shift changes everything. It turns your strategy into a shared journey, not a top-down mandate. And it gives your stakeholders a sense of ownership in the process, which, as we'll see in the next lesson, is crucial to long-term support. So, this week, set aside some time to sketch out your draft. Start small. Write one paragraph about the UX challenge you're most worried about. List 2 or 3 principles that reflect how you want to work with UX. And jot down one tactic that could help you move things forward right now. You'll add and refine to this over time, but getting started and getting it out of your head is what matters most. And so, in the next lesson, we're going to walk through how to share all of this with leadership in a way that invites their support instead of skepticism.